Welcome to the Forces Sports Show, your weekly roundup of the best action and biggest stories from across the services. Coming up in the next half hour. Rough ride, the men's race at the Inter-Services Championships is abandoned in tricky conditions. Smooth sailing, glorious seas help the UK Invictus team prepare for the Games in Sydney. Perfect start, the Sappers claim the first silverware of the season at the Army Intercorps Rugby Festival. We start with cycling and drama at the Inter-Services Road Championships. The event was brought to a premature halt after a series of accidents caused by high winds and slippery roads. It meant there was no result in the men's race. The women's event in Shropshire did take place and was dominated by the Army. Even on a designated circuit like Minsterley, road cycling has its dangers, and for the 36 top riders from the Army, Navy and RAF, conditions were challenging with squally winds and heavy showers, making the narrow road slippery for the 56-mile race. An accident just after this section of the circuit involved several cyclists in the peloton colliding with a support motorcycle, which in turn had come off avoiding a previous crash. No one was injured, but organisers stopped the race. The Army's top cyclist, Scottish national champion Mark Robertson, who would have almost certainly won here, says it was the right decision.
Normally the frustration is underperforming or not quite winning. I suppose in this case it's so rare for a race to get cancelled after it started. It's kind of, you all just want to race and you don't really appreciate that somebody's got to take the risk at the end of the day, and I think that's where you need to when you put yourself in their shoes. And
well, safety is everything, isn't it? I mean, that's the most important thing.
Well, that's it. Like somebody says, we're all walking away. There's a few people with like cut up faces and stuff like that, but ultimately, yeah, it could have been a lot worse, I suppose.
The women's race passed off without incident. 36 miles for the 18 riders to negotiate, 10 from the Army, 7 from the RAF and just one Navy rider, Rachel Hackerman. Leading from the front, one of the Army's outstanding athletes at the moment, Charmaine Porter, who'd already built a substantial lead by the end of the second lap. She went on to claim victory by a clear 4 minutes.
The winds were the main factor, to be honest. They were really, really gusty, and you had about, over the backside of the circuit, you had about a mile just pure headwind. So yeah, it was really difficult. It's a tough race.
It was, but you sort of nailed it really, and you know, are you happy with your time, you know, considering the conditions today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a team effort we had to break the other two services. We knew we got Lucy Nell with us, who's a strong rider, so EJ and I just, you know, talked, and we had to try and work her over as much as we could, and then just wait until one of us got a breakaway.
There were plenty of other battles behind Charmaine, with EJ Harris leading the rest of the Army team, ably supported by Danny Gloyn to hold off the RAF's main challengers, led by Lucy Nell. And it was a tactical triumph for the Army riders, who were clear winners of the team title. Now, in a month's time, the 4th Invictus Games will be underway in Sydney, Australia. This year, sailing will be included in the competition for the very first time. As training steps up, 9 athletes from Team UK have been out on the water in Dorset, watched by Ali Gibson.
It was what they call in the sport a champagne sailing day, as 9 wounded, injured and sick serving personnel and veterans hit the water around Weymouth Bay and Portland Harbour. Former Royal Marine musician Poppy Pawsey took home bronze in swimming in the last Invictus Games. Now she's heading up the sailing squad.
There's 2 teams of 4 now. We've just been told we've got another boat, which is great. But so it's a bit of you know, trying to get everyone out, learning where they're going to be in the boat, how they move across the boat, because obviously everyone's got different injuries or things that maybe they can't move as easily across the boat. So we're just working as a team to try and make that work. But as a team captain, the goal obviously is to go out there and show everyone what us Brits can do on the water. But essentially, I want to have a safe boat and a happy boat.
Unbelievable. And happiness is a big part of the Invictus team as they navigate their way through a new sport and new lingo.
Yeah, we're all over that. Yeah. We've got that.
Yeah, I think we've probably adapted a few words to our own, but at least we all understand the same signal.
But it's just when Emma told us to go down below deck, we were having none of that. We're like, it's not happening.
Spencer Bull served with the Royal Green Jackets and the Rifles for 29 years before he was medically discharged due to multiple sclerosis. His first Invictus Games is about looking forward.
I was getting a bit fed up, sat on the sidelines, watching everyone else do stuff, believing that I couldn't for whatever reason, and thought, no, I need to change my whole approach. And it was, more than anything else, it was watching the kids and thought, I haven't really been able to kick a ball around with them, do anything. So let's see if I can do something that I could be that role model for my kids, be an inspiration for them, and tell them that whatever life throws at you, you can deal with adversity.
Sailing is a brand new discipline for Invictus 2018. The team are training in Elliott 6 boats, a slightly smaller version of what they'll race in Sydney, and in Hansa 303s.
We're aware that it's 3 races. Initially, they're going to be about 20 minutes long. They're going to be what we call windward-leeward courses, so like a sausage-shaped course, and a maximum of 3 laps. So quite intense for the sailors because it'll be quick fire. And then off the back of those 3 races, they take some overall results, and the top 6 boats in the Elliott fleet go into a medal race, and the top 5 boats in the Hansa fleet go into a medal race. So it's all about being consistent when we're out there, and hopefully getting in that top 5 or 6, depending on which fleet we're sailing in.
In a month's time, these budding Invictus sailors will head down under, hoping to make their mark in Sydney's spectacular harbour.
Staying on the water, surf therapy continues to help hundreds of wounded, injured and sick veterans and serving personnel. Supported by the Endeavour Fund, Help for Heroes has been holding its annual camp in Cornwall. Kath Brazier went to Bude to find out more.
Now in its 3rd year in the UK, Operation Surf is still breaking down physical and psychological barriers.
Well, I love the sea. I love the sound of it, the smell of it, the feel of it. The chance to be here, surfing is great and being in the water is great. I could sit here till tomorrow morning. I feel calm, I feel at peace. There's no computers, there's no Wi-Fi. It's just gorgeous, and we're day 1 of 5 days. I'm already not looking forward to Friday because it's just amazing. Look, it's incredible.
Darren was a corporal in the Royal Military Police, and he served in West Germany and Northern Ireland, but it's taken him 20 years to accept help with post-traumatic stress disorder.
I lost my job, I lost my dignity, and I lost my self-respect. If it hadn't have been for Help for Heroes, they literally turned my life around. They've given me so much support. It was only 3 years ago that I stepped forward and asked for help, and thank God that I did. You're dealing with problems that your body has been saving up for years. I say like I know what I'm talking about, but I didn't. I was embarrassed, I was frightened, I was scared, I didn't know what was wrong with me. And then when, through Help for Heroes, when someone put a notional hand on my shoulder and said, it's not your fault and you've served your country and we can help you, that's an amazing thing. And after 20 years, to have that support, and the fact that you feel like it doesn't matter how long you've been out of the services, they're still there for you. I had no idea this stuff was going on like this. I had no idea. I didn't. I knew what Help for Heroes was, and I gave them a pound if I saw them in the street, but I didn't know what they did. I just didn't know there was all this stuff available for people like me. They've turned my life around, and it isn't too much to say. In fact, they saved my life.
Like Darren, 14 of those on the camp are beginners, but the surfers in the blue tops are returnees from previous expeditions. Adaptive surfing taught by world-class instructors. OpSurf unsurprisingly began in California. But this week-long programme in Cornwall looks set to grow as more and more people experience the healing power of the open water.
The Royal Engineers have enjoyed early success in the new rugby union season. They put in a strong performance to beat the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers to win the Army Corps Festival in Aldershot. Julian Evans reports.
The Army rugby season is up and running as cap badges from across the service featured in the Army Corps Festival. The one-day tournament saw the Royal Engineers battle it out with the Remy in the final. A deliberate knock-on by Jake Goldworthy had the Remy man sin-binned. And it was Army fly half James Dixon who opened the scoring for the Sappers with a penalty drop goal, courtesy of Goldworthy's misdemeanour. In this tournament, teams enjoy a full complement of 15 players a side, but the games are just 10 minutes per half, extended to 12 in the final. It makes for attacking rugby. Dixon helped extend the Engineers' advantage when he crossed for a converted try, making the score 10-0. However, the Remy wasted little time hitting back. Fresh from his stint in the bin, Goldworthy had the easy task of dotting down for a try. The conversion would be unsuccessful as the Sappers remained 10-5 up. The contest was settled in the second half when Dixon's perfectly weighted crossfield kick fell into the clutches of Sam Butler. Not a bad effort from the front row forward, who scooted in to score a converted try. As well as blowing away the cobwebs, this early season success for the Sappers will be seen as the catalyst for what they hope will be a championship-winning year.
We have been going through a bit of a change over the last maybe 4 to 5 years. We're very busy as a corps, so lots of new players coming in now as well. So not only does it blow away the cobwebs, it brings in our youngsters, and we've probably identified 4 or 5 key players to push on forward now and hopefully nail down a place.
So, silverware in September for the Sappers. They'll now look to engineer more success later in the season.
Now, 3 members of the UK Armed Forces equestrian team have qualified for the finals of a national show jumping competition. Lance Corporal Holly Hall of the Royal Logistic Corps was placed second in the national amateur qualifying event in the 1 metre 10 category, and she followed that up with a third place in the 1 metre 5 qualifiers. She was competing on her horse WKD San Remo. Also into the finals in the 1 metre 10 category will be the RAF squadron leader Elise Kidd, who won her qualifying event, producing 5 double clear rounds on her horse Villager. And the Royal Navy's Petty Officer Sophie Fuller made it 3 out of 3 of Forces qualifiers, 1 for each service, by getting through on her horse Infinity. The National Amateur Jumping Finals will be staged at Aintree in November. More ahead of the Invictus Games now. The 7 wheelchair basketball players who will represent Team UK Down Under have been preparing at the National Sports Centre. Kath Brazier caught up with them at a team training session at Lilleshall.
Under the watchful eye of head coach Major Scott Wallace, these wheelchair basketball players are looking to net the perfect performance. Since winning the inaugural competition in London in 2014, the UK have come up against strong opposition in both Orlando and Toronto, claiming a silver and a bronze medal respectively, but not another gold.
Wheelchair basketball, though started in Stoke Mandeville in England, it is very much seen as being an American game because of its similarities to running game basketball. The Americans are always strong. They've had a couple of players who have played for the US international team, and that's good for us because that gives us something to aim for. But the Dutch came strong last time in Toronto with 2 Paralympians, and that kind of really upped the game. And the final in Toronto really showed the world what Invictus Games athletes can do when given the opportunity.
Team sports in particular generate a huge following at the Games, with sellout crowds expected, but only 3 of this squad have already experienced that. The remaining 4 are competing at Invictus for the first time, including the basketball team captain Rich Pullen. An ex-Remy craftsman, he was injured in a road traffic accident in 1989. He has years of expertise in the sport, so the reins are in the right hands.
I found wheelchair basketball, I suppose, 20-something years ago, purely through luck, and got into a chair, fell straight out the back of it, and loved it. And I've been sat in this thing ever since, to be honest with you, week in, week out. But being back in, with these guys, it's, I don't know, it brings it all to the forefront of what it was like, and for me, obviously, that was quite some time ago. But it's that banter, it's that fun, it's that let's just get on with things, which all of these people have. They may have disabilities, they may have mental, physical disabilities, but they've all got that get up and go attitude. That's part of the reason why they're in the forces, whichever one it was.
Like Rich, Dan will be competing for the first time, although he was part of the Warrior Games last year.
Wheelchair basketball, team sports does it for me. It's a drive of not letting your teammates down, but then others in the drive let the better yourself for your teammates as well. So basketball I love because it's such a fun, dynamic sport to be played.
No doubt the wheelchair basketball will be one of the highlights of the Games, and Team UK now have a crop of experience to pick from. They've never been out of the medals, but they'll be looking to end US dominance by coming out on top again.
Military and civilian runners have been getting the chance to experience some hard training at the 11th annual Paras 10 race. The 10-mile challenge is part of the selection criteria for the Paras. Undaunted, our reporter Hannah King took to the course in Catterick.
It's a 10-mile tab through mud and marshes carrying 35 pounds. Routine for a paratrooper, less so for a Forces TV reporter.
What silly idea was this?
Pain is the only certainty, it says when you sign up. And this year there are some VIPs on the start line. After extensive surgery on both legs earlier this year, Paralympian Scott Minar made this year's Paras 10 his goal.
To get over these 10 miles is no mean feat for anybody, and to get myself to a place post-injury where I can cover that ground again, it's kind of like going down the old kind of stomping ground.
How difficult is it doing on blades?
So it's such an aggressive movement, it's so physically demanding on the body. They say that it takes 200% more energy for a double amputee to walk, never mind run, than it does for someone with legs. So it takes a lot of energy out of me, but I'm fit enough for it, I'm strong enough, and I'm ready for it. And I think that I only need to look to my left and right for the motivation.
2, 1, go! As the starting horn fired, over 800 runners, tabbers and canine participants left Vimy Barracks. My first mission was to catch up with 82-year-old Paras 10 regular Mike Doyle. I asked him what his secret was.
It's mind. Your body is quite capable of doing extraordinary things if you use your mind. But most people reach a certain age and they think, oh, well, they behave like they think you have to do at that age. And to me, age is just a number.
Any tips? This is my first one.
Yep. Don't look too far ahead. Just look about 10 or 20 feet in front. Otherwise, you could get disheartened because it's pretty rough terrain.
We call it the ultimate endurance race. It is tough. This is what the Paras do to become Paras. Tabbing stands for Tactical Advance to Battle, and it's a particular technique for moving steadily and speedily with weight on your back, and it's what the Paras use when they're basically advancing to go into action. The myth and the legend is that the 10-mile distance came from the fact that when the Paras were dropped at Arnhem, they were 10 miles away from where they should have been dropped. So they had to get to their original drop zone on foot with all their equipment, and that's where the 10 miles came from. That's the legend.
10 sweaty miles later, and the runners began trickling in. Everyone had their own reasons for doing this race. No doubt many will be back again next year. I may or may not join them.
You did well.
That was good.
Well, that's it for this week. Don't forget, you can see all the action as we get it on forces.net and this show and more on YouTube. In next week's programme, we'll have the action from the latest Kentish Cup warm-up game for the UK Armed Forces footballers. The team are going for a 4th win in a row against the French and Dutch forces. We'll leave you with some of their best moments in recent years.
The fire in your belly, that's how the winners thrive.